Good morning. Happy 6-year anniversary to Riverwoods Durham. Today I have Eric Harmon here from AG Architecture, who is going to walk through the latest design of Phase 2, which we officially got approval for last night from the town. We'll be covering design details only today. We won't be talking financials. We won't be talking operational components like what's going to be served in the dining area across the street. So some really great renderings to see later today. But before we do that, I want to just quickly overview the history and goals of Phase 2 at Riverwoods Durham. We purchased the land in 2020. A very lovely time, as we all remember. And with that, we took a deep pause on any work with Phase 2 until about 2022, when we really started the connection with you all and the staff of what the needs were with this expansion. In 2023, we created that dedicated email address that you've all been utilizing, which I have an update hopefully coming in this week's Community Connections for some responses to questions and comments that you have regarding Phase 2, and that's still available. So I'll remind you at the end of the presentation to please keep giving feedback in that way. And we've really picked up design work, I would say, in 2023, 2024, and even this year, which I'll talk a little bit more about at the end of the presentation. So as far as goals are concerned for the project, we have our internal goals, which revolve around expanding and some lessons learned. Who knew that medicine balls on top of the dining room were not a good idea? Well, we did. We learned that. So expanding our spaces, and we're limited today to not only fitness, but music. We have a huge choral group, and also dining. We're going to be welcoming approximately 75 new neighbors with the expansion, so we need to grow our space. We're already at maximum capacity now. So that's the internal components. We also have the external components. We have over 150 folks on our wait list, external wait list, and they're ready to make a move. So we need to serve our wait list as well. So those are the two goals for the project, and now I'm going to invite Eric up to deep dive those two goals.
Thank you, Natalie. How is my sound before I say anything important? Excellent. Fantastic. So as Natalie mentioned, I am Eric Harmon from AG Architecture. We had the pleasure of designing this building the first go-round and had the pleasure to learn about the mistakes we made with medicine balls over the top of dining rooms. But we're excited to be back in front of you to talk about the updates for the expansion of this campus, and then of course Phase 2 with the hybrids across the street. It's been about a year since we were here, and as Natalie mentioned, that year has been consumed with the community approval process, and luckily last night I was in the audience and participating in the presentation when we got our approval. So that is a significant milestone that allows us to have the confidence to continue to move this project forward and know that the Town of Durham is supportive of the endeavors, both from a planning standpoint and from an architectural standpoint. So what we have to present to you today, we will start with an update on the concepts for the renovations, the stuff that's going to happen within the primary campus, and then we'll pause at that point and allow for questions and answers to discuss the renovation components, because I don't want to get too far down the presentation and lose track of the components that are going to be front and center on the main campus. And then once we spend a little bit of time on the questions and answers and remodel, we'll jump over to the Phase 2 expansion and the key components for that. So we won't make you wait the entire time to answer the key questions that you have up front. As far as kind of setting the stage, we're going to first focus on the main campus, and north in this site plan is facing down, and we have the main commons right here in the middle of the overall site plan. That's the only time that you're going to see the floor plans in that orientation. For the most part, you'll see the floor plans in the orientation over here, where the front entry is downward facing, and then the courtyard with the dining space is facing to the right. So that orientation, I just wanted to set the stage for rotating the building. Overall, I wanted to start with the remodel and renovation of the upper floor. As we talked about the medicine balls, that was one of the lessons learned with the fitness on the second floor. One of the other lessons learned was the fact that that was the main connection between the IL wings. And as we looked at that connection between these two blue components, that really limited some of the usable or functional square footage of that fitness space. So even though the size and the square footage was there, you had an 8-foot pathway right down the middle that really interrupted the flow, and also that sense of privacy where sometimes when you're in the middle of throwing the medicine balls around, you don't need somebody walking through to get their morning coffee. So to highlight that space, the area to the right, number 1, was the main fitness area. Number 2 is the space that's open to below. And then 3 was the fitness studio directly across from that. What we're proposing is to reconfigure this and create a creative arts room and a conference room down in what used to be the studio. And then a couple of meeting room options across in what is currently kind of a multi-purpose room, meeting room space. Creating a seating area adjacent to the open below, and then some defined offices and workroom that work on both sides of a corridor. For those of you who have been here for previous presentations, this was one of the options we presented in the past, and it was the one that we kind of moved forward with along the lines of an expanded creativity suite that is able to open up into a larger area, and then more meeting spaces, which was one of the feedbacks that we heard, more small meeting opportunities, and then the relocation of the offices up to this level. Offices over dining are much quieter. Unless it's a very stressful day, nobody should be throwing medicine balls at the ground within the office space. What this does, and will kind of set the stage for some of those steps moving forward, is bringing the creativity suite and the offices up here does wonders for opening up the lower level area where we have a slab on grade configuration. And slab on grade, a concrete floor directly down to ground. When we put fitness down there, sound won't transfer as much. As far as the overall spaces go, meeting rooms, we're looking at about 200 square foot for the meeting room, 150 square feet for the small meeting room, 710 for the creativity that can have another 255 square feet for this additional conference space, and then about 182 square feet for seating outside of the creativity space. And that compares to a current area of 750 square feet. So all in all, the creativity space and the meeting spaces are increasing almost twofold. So we're going from 750 square feet to 1,500 square feet for those uses. Jumping downstairs to that lower level, this is the main entry, reception, and when you come down this hall, you can come down to offices, salon, and the creativity suite down here. And as we've mentioned, we've now moved that up above, so it gives us the opportunity to look at, ooh, I broke it. Natalie to the rescue. Oh, it's making the move. There it is. Then you touch it again. I will use a longer arm and try to touch it softer. There we go. So now down in this space, we have the new music and media room. We have a practice room where you can have some jam sessions. and have doors that can close off a little bit more. We're bringing in a new set of bathrooms. And then when we get down to the end of the corridor, we have a new exercise classroom, new equipment space, and new yoga studio. All in, that square footage starts to be broken up more along activity and less along the office space that used to be down there. As we get into those spaces, yoga studio of 810 square feet, fitness room of 1,130 square feet, equipment of 530, and then a small office of 110 gives us 2,580 square feet. Compared to the studio's exercise classroom and equipment before, that was 2,125. So all in, we're looking at about 400 additional square feet being dedicated to fitness use, which we think is going to be even more substantial because it will no longer have a circulation path going through the middle of it, but instead is being designed for the classroom, equipment, and yoga studio to have kind of 3 independent spaces. We have worked with the staff to start to look at kind of a flow of equipment and how those spaces will work within kind of the daily activity. And as we get into further detail, we'll fine tune what equipment goes where to ensure that we're not crossing the pathways, people working from one room to another. Taking the larger step back, and I think the more significant component to this remodel is, of course, our dining area. Up on this main level here, so right now, this furniture arrangement is how we showed it back when we did design, but right now I'm standing right about here in the Tremont room. And then we have dining that's circulating around and coming to the other side on this area number 2. Couple of key components that we heard during our early planning was this dining, while very attractive and gets nice views of the courtyard, turned into circulation again as you came to the healthcare building. So instead of having a nice dining room aesthetic, it turned into a corridor a little bit. And of course, as we look at this room, we're going to be bringing in 70 different additional people potentially into this development. So how would we fit 70 more people into this room? I'm seeing some head nods and shakes of recognizing that that's not going to work out. So as we started this planning process, we were talking a lot about expanding this room, removing the bathrooms, going further out into dining. We went down that path for a little bit. And a year ago when we were making this presentation, that was the concept, that we would just simply expand this room, and then our new dining room would be the addition off into the courtyard. And what we've really determined is that the return that we were going to get on that investment was not going to be great enough, because when we expand outward, we were going to be dropping the ceiling down even. The room wasn't going to get any wider, so people were going to be sitting much further away from the stage. And in doing so, they were going to be in a lower ceiling, so that was going to become challenging for acoustics. It was also going to impact the function of the dining space, as this room would have encroached into that. So some of the highest use and most exciting dining areas we have in here were going to be removed. We don't like that plan, and we thought better of it, some of it because of the comments that you guys made during the last presentation. But what we're proposing now is to turn this room into an expanded dining area. And this room becoming dining will work as a natural flow from the bistro into this space. Those doors and the walls that you see there will no longer be incorporated into the plan. So it would be an open dining room that you could flow directly into. And that's identified within this space where the marketplace can flow right in, where the doors are now would go away, and you would flow into an overall dining expansion. That would fit about 98 chairs in the dining space within this area. So that's going to be a pretty substantial addition. And then the bigger component of that is, as we're looking at larger food service opportunity, about half of this room, maybe a quarter of this room, would be turned into kitchen expansion. So taking advantage of that current access where it says employees only, coming out into an area where if you were to look at this stage and think of this as a wall, everything on your side of the wall would be the dining area, and everything on my side of that wall would become kitchen expansion. So that allows for some additional cooking opportunity, some additional storage, which I know is a hot topic within the kitchen area. And then we can work around the dishwashing and then have this food prep area right here. And it ties really nicely into the existing freezers and coolers. And then everything you're seeing that's kind of those dark areas is expanded storage. So a lot of positive attributes coming out of making this the dining expansion. The multi-purpose room, instead of being here in the Tremont room, will become what the addition is. And right now, there are about 116 chairs in this room. We identified that at max capacity, if you were sitting maybe 5 feet closer to me and we were filled to the back, that we could have about 157 chairs within this room. The new multi-purpose room is planned to be nearly 3,000 square feet and achieve 205 chairs. So we're adding 50 chairs just to the space of that room without kind of impacting our existing footprint, but instead building out into the courtyard. As I mentioned with the dining expansion, those 98 chairs that we're able to achieve within this area, that compares to 36 chairs that currently exist in C111, the existing dining room. And those 36 chairs to 98, my math isn't that great, but I think that's 62 unit or chair increase. And you can see that with the expansion, we're able to create a really nice flow from the kitchen into this dining area, and then as a resident flowing from the marketplace directly into this dining area, and then still getting the natural light of those windows. So a lot of positives there. And the overall ceiling height of this space works out really well for dining. We don't have too much volume in this area, and by volume I don't mean noise, I mean the area within the space. So it'll be easy to keep sound down for individual conversations at individual tables. And we can do a little bit of work to subdivide this space, where in the middle we could create a nice banquette, screen walls which already exist on the campus, but start to turn this into a room that can feel like 2 or 3 seating spaces as you work around in different dining configurations. So we're pretty excited about that opportunity. Moving into the multi-purpose room expansion, similarly, 157 chairs currently fit. We will be achieving the 205 chairs, so that's a 50 chair expansion. And we'll be able to add a substantial amount of storage directly behind the stage. And we'll have a ramp, the piano area, and stage configuration, and then a stair on this side. So the one difference here is that as an individual coming into the show, you will basically come from those doors or those doors and flow past the stage to take your seat. And the back of the room will be windows and natural daylight kind of coming into the courtyard. So this orientation is allowing us to both have a nice solid wall to present against, and then also having much more natural light flow into the room, as that building will have windows on 3 sides, where this room currently just has windows on 1 side. The other difference and the component of this that's exciting to us is we won't have any structure above that room. So right now, while we have the roof directly above us, where everybody's standing in the back, that's the independent living wing and the fitness and the bathrooms. So there's less flexibility in ceiling heights. When we create a 1-story structure, we can look at the opportunity of creating a little bit of volume, working with the acoustician to ensure that the acoustics of the room are proper. But by bringing in a little bit of height with a sloped ceiling, we'll be able to elevate some lighting outside of view ranges. And as the room gets deeper, more people will have better visibility to a larger stage opportunity as we look at a wider back of house. Now, all of these images are early, kind of sketchy style because we haven't really worked with the interior designers to identify the true ceiling treatments or the patterns on the floor or any of the details. But what's really exciting to us architecturally is to be able to identify that we can bring in some height within that space. So, the final key component before we get into questions and answers is this is all fine and well, but what are you doing to the courtyard? And last time we were here, the design of the dining room that was going to be expanded had a large kind of gazebo open truss structure for outdoor dining. Then we had the dining area off to the right. This is our existing condition down here in the lower right, and I apologize for everybody on this side. Can't move it right now. But kind of the existing condition of the outdoor porch was being replicated here, but then increased in scale, and then the dining space was going to be next to it. As we presented this, and some of the feedback we got last time was, this feels like it's closer to the units. This feels like it's taller right next to the units in the courtyard than what's existing. And in fact, it was at that point in time. What we've looked to do with this renovation is to have the multi-purpose room off to the side. So we're building it closer to the memory care, kind of pushing it further east in the plan. And then we have a smaller, more subtle, covered outdoor dining and gathering space. And then we have the circulation path that can lead directly back into the commons. But this key component is that this side of this is no closer to the existing units than our existing covered porch. We wanted to ensure that we weren't encroaching closer to the building than what currently has. We are coming further out into the courtyard, but as far as the proximity to the building, we're no closer. The sidewalk and landscaping will need to be reconfigured within that courtyard space, but it'll be done so that the patio and outdoor gathering space can blend directly in those pathways. Now, architecturally, we're designing this to the style that aligns with everything existing at Riverwoods, but that's only part of the story. The other key component is what this is doing to the sunlight. So as we look at the inside corner, you can see that we have natural sunlight, really the extent of the day. As the sun moves from morning to evening, a lot of natural daylight still occurring. And that's the case because we kept the height of the roof further away from the existing building and then sloped it down this shed roof attachment. So in the evening, when it's nighttime, it'll remain night. But during the heart of the day, you have a lot of natural daylight flowing into there. And then lastly, as you look out from this patio, and this is the first unit at the inside corner, you have the opportunity to look out in the courtyard, kind of an understanding of what that patio and porch experience will be. And with that, that covers the renovation and remodel components. So I would open it up to questions at this time. We have one right here in the middle, so I don't know who's going to be working our microphones. We have two microphones.
It's just curiosity. When you do 2-to-1 and 1-to-2, are you going to be changing the outer facade? Are you going to have to change window treatments and that sort of thing?
Yes. Yep. The window modifications will be significant for this building, as right now the existing building face too bad. I'm gonna break all the rules. I'm gonna exit the presentation for a second and make this as big as I can. Slideshow from current slide. Didn't break the machine. Broke the rules, didn't break the machine. So this addition right here, where you're seeing kind of what was the dining room, that's being constructed primarily in front of this face of the existing dining in C111. That wall we're really taking away. And then from there, we're adding on to it. So all of those windows will be reconfigured and taken out. This wall here is also part of the expansion area. So the single door and then the double window that you have within that dining space, that would be removed as well. And then where this window is will become the door that'll actually take you out onto that patio. 1 and 2. Oh. No. No. Thank you for clarifying. So the question is, and I misunderstood it, when the areas that are on the first floor go up to the second floor, and when the fitness areas go down to that lower level, will the exterior windows and those configurations need to change? And that answer is no. That's an internal renovation.
Right here.
All the way in the back.
When we have performers, particularly musicians and bands on stage, what's the outside sound going to be carrying into the courtyard?
No additional sound into the courtyard. It'll be fully insulated, high U-value windows. It will sound better than this room. And it will not project out from this room.
I have a question about airflow in the courtyard, especially with that outdoor dining. Currently, it can get very hot in there. There's a lot of sun in there during the daytime in the summer. It can get pretty hot in there. And with the new addition of the function room and the change of the roofs and the dining being, right up against that wall, we depend on the northeast air sometimes, which is cooler in the summer, and I'm concerned about that in terms of airflow for breathing and comfort and whatever.
Yeah, fair point. And I think that is one of the pieces where we had this large gable that was being built above the commons, and that gable was in close proximity to this existing building. So some of the feedback we got from that was obstruction of obstruction of natural light, airflow, and the proximity to the edge. And that is why we actually lowered this roof to kind of come in and tie into the existing commons height. So if you can look here, this existing roof line, and I think it actually might represent a little bit better in the animation. This roof line right here remains the same. And then we are building up as we get closer to the memory care building. So I would anticipate the majority of that courtyard remaining with the same airflow it has today, not a decrease in airflow. And then as a separate note, one of the things that we're doing within that covered porch is ensuring that we have the opportunity for outdoor fans to get some air circulating in there. So even though you might not get the cross breeze, we're going to bring some air down and move it with the fans on the outdoor patio. Trying to get as much comfort in the shoulder seasons as we can within the outdoor dining opportunity. Got right there in the middle.
I don't think it's news that the two problems in this room are it's always freezing cold. You have to wear winter clothes. And there's also the fan that runs all the time. So you get the drone of the fan and everyone's in their snowsuits. So tell me that that's not going to be the case in the new large space.
That will not be the case in the new large space. Nailed it. So what the biggest difference here is, as we mentioned, we've got building above us. And we have the entirety of the commons that we are on the level of. So this is our flat roof opportunity for a lot of mechanicals that are doing a lot of the work for all the common space directly above us, which is the reason for the ceiling being low and everything from there. It's the reason you hear the noise of the HVAC equipment, and that will not be the case over there. And then subsequently, we will also have some more height that we can move more air a little bit quicker within that truss space, and then kind of bring in a little bit more diffusion how we circulate. And I won't feel like I'm going to hit my head on the ceiling when I'm on the stage in the back.
In the new
get you next.
big room that you're adding on to, will the stage be at a higher height than the stage you're now presently standing on?
No.
That is so low that people in the back of the room
Mhm.
can't really see very well. Highest stage would really.
You broke up at the end there, but I think it was important that we look at the height of this. And I think we can. It hadn't been a focus about us ensuring that the stage was any higher than this one. But I think as we look at having, this type of volume and more space and, the ability where I couldn't touch the ceiling in there, we'd have some more flexibility to play with. So we'll take that into consideration. There's also a safety factor. I have a habit of standing right on the edge of stages, making people uncomfortable as I get close to falling. So it's not that it's going to hurt me any less to fall 24 inches versus 36, but that is one of the reasons for that height. I promised Bob.
Okay,
that-
it's on.
Oh.
It would help when you're giving your presentation if you wouldn't stand in front of the screen. I have missed so many things because I see your body, your back.
Thank you for the feedback.
What is the effect on the route to supportive living?
I mentioned it, but I didn't dive into it too significantly. The impact is that you will feel as though you are walking down a hallway intended to be connecting back to the healthcare building. So we'll have the expanded food service. We'll have 2 additional new bathrooms. We'll have the storage and IT area, and then a corridor that brings you back to the healthcare building. So instead of walking through commons and dining space, you'll be walking through a corridor to get to that elevator.
In the new multi-purpose room, you're going to have windows on 3 sides.
We are.
Delightful. But what are you going to? What sort of window treatment will you have? So on the times we're showing movies or want to darken it, you have to do it mechanically with one. That's going to be.
That's a fair point. And as we're going through the process of renovations and remodels in Exeter, we're actually having those same conversations with those multi-purpose rooms. And RDG and AG are combining to look at what blackout options we have from a mechanical standpoint. Manual is obviously more cost effective, but having the ability to step in the back and push a button is a really significant impact bringing in to this multi.
On the multi-purpose room, I think you showed that there would be one entrance to that room. So, for example, for the stage we have here, that door on the left essentially is the same kind of arrangement as you're going to have in the multi-purpose room. People come in from that door.
Correct.
No other entrance options, particularly in the winter. I suppose you could come in the side doors in the warm weather. What I'm getting at is you have a performance going on or an important all-resident meeting, and people will be streaming in that door after the thing starts. And so I don't think that's desirable from a point of view of access to the room. The second question is the size of the stage similar to this stage or larger?
It's larger by about 4 feet width. Depth-wise, we don't have any additional depth to it. And then to the first point, I've been giving presentations to Riverwoods for several years, and I have never seen somebody late to a presentation. But I say that jokingly, of course. But
Yes, you're more popular than the rest of our presentations.
I would say that the likelihood of people flowing in late is less frequent than I would anticipate. But it is something for us to consider. I hadn't thought of that concern.
Second question in that regard, the stage access, I think you showed us a single point stage access.
We have a stair on the side adjacent to that doorway, very similar to that configuration. And then we have a ramp not unlike this.
Okay.
It'll be a little bit longer ramp, but we do have access from both sides.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, one last one. Acoustics.
Yes.
Are you guys designing the acoustics of that room, or are you going to bring in a vendor to deal with acoustics?
We will design the space, and then we will work with an acoustic engineer to actually design the acoustics.
So I understand why you couldn't have tiered seating or stadium seating in the multipurpose room. For obvious reasons. How high will the stage be to kind of offset that lack of viewability?
I think one of the points that we're talking about is if we look at seeing how high we can make it, if it's 3 or 4 steps and a little bit longer ramp, we can certainly accommodate that. It was currently designed to match the height of this one, but recognizing that if we're going to get deeper, we can get taller.
I have a math question for you. You said this room currently seats 156 people or something like that in that neighborhood?
Max capacity, but right now I think I counted 116.
We're adding 75 people. That would take us up to about 225 people. And I thought you said it was only going to be adapted to 206.
Yeah, those are both correct. All of that math is accurate. So we do not have space right now for every single individual to occupy a chair within that multipurpose. It doesn't really depend on the size of the chair. So the follow-up comment was, well, that would depend on the size of the chair. And we will be working with the residents to identify the proper chair and what we want to sit on for longer shows. But it really ends up being the spacing between the chairs and the aisles, be able to comfortably get into a chair in the middle. For example, Bill, you are in like the worst possible seat because you are in the middle and you had to work past 3 individuals on both sides to get in and out. So that aisle depth is based on your ability to move if you want to, and sneak out that door.
How about the dining area? I mean, I know I'm down late some evening. It's hard to find a clean table that you can sit at because there aren't enough for everybody. And I'm wondering if I'm very in favor of the round tables. Is that a given or that's still?
That microphone seems to be having some cutting in and out issues. At the end, she asked if the round tables were a given or if they're still open for discussion. And the answer is absolutely still open for discussion, but right now the round tables do appear to work best within the space.
Me. Those of us who go to Fitness a lot like it because there's all those nice windows, and when we're downstairs, we won't have that. Are you going to do something with the light or something to make it a little brighter?
There will be significant change to the lighting and the ceiling treatments within those spaces to make it as light and bright and airy as we can. I do believe that end condition does have more windows than further inboard, so we should still have nice light window access. It just won't be elevated above the campus.
In the multimedia room, or in the media, the large room, with the peak ceiling, is it possible to consider having the screen at a much higher level so that you could be using the stage and see the screen above it, and or to have additional screens on each side, that would duplicate what's on the main screen?
All things are possible at this point in time. giving the presentations that I have been, I feel like I've been on a tour of Riverwoods, which has been eventful and very enjoyable. But the Ridge room is a small room at the Ridge. This room, we are at the same level as the screen, and at Boulders on the stage, you're also at the same level as the screen. At the Woods, the screen is elevated up above the presenter. And I will say, as a presenter, that's very challenging for me because I want to interact with the screen, but we don't get any complaints about visibility. I'm never standing in the way of the screen there. So it's something that we can consider.
I'm sorry, I need to backtrack a little because I couldn't get the mic right after Bill. But Bill talked about the people flowing in late to the multipurpose room. And I'd just like to say that about people who want to leave. They decide this conference or this concert or this lecture isn't for them. And so then they have to do the walk of shame to get out the door.
There's no better way to inform a presenter that he's doing a bad job than just to get up and walk out. Well, you know, as we're discussing this, because nothing is set in stone and we have opportunities for updates, there's a potential where you could orient the stage on this side. We can weigh that from a seating capacity standpoint. The challenge becomes your aisles get too wide. And as we mentioned, you know, when you're sitting in the middle seat, having to traverse across 3 people to get to a middle seat, one thing. Having to traverse across 7 or 8 people to get to a middle seat makes that awkward departure halfway through a show even worse. So I think there's pros and cons to the orientation. Architecturally, I would have a tough time suggesting the stage be on this wall, just because this is our opportunity for natural daylight. And if we go back to the idea of the boulders, where those windows are directly over the top of the stage and behind a blackout curtain more often than not, that's not the experience we're looking to create. So I think this would be my last choice for where a stage would be, especially with storage on the opposite side. We can look at putting a stage here and recognizing that maybe a couple of windows that are facing the memory care courtyard are less impactful. But right now, as far as corridor width and length and visibility, we do feel confident that the current location is the
Tell me, is it possible to get rid of the permanent podium?
Yes, that thing that you're leaning on.
Oh, well, I can get rid of this one. But I think the idea of having a little bit more storage and a little bit more flexibility might give this spot someplace else to live when not in use. One of the pieces of that is right now, you can see we're elevated, and then on the storage side, we would come back down. Be able to achieve some more flexibility, maybe a larger elevated spot needs to remain behind in storage. But
People on the other side don't sit there because they can't see everything that you have.
why you all get here so early.
That's why we get here early.
When you have the time, will you be including video and television production in the multipurpose room? And could there be a booth or at least a director's table where we might have all the components for both audio, lighting, and video in one place rather than having to scatter around the room to make changes?
So we are working with David and the IT side of things to really relocate everything over onto our new multi-purpose room and really kind of create a more state-of-the-art system. And we will identify that as one of the components to work with them on.
Do you have a final number for the height of the ceiling in the new room, the multi-purpose room, on the sides of where the walls are and at the peak?
Our bearing will be at 12 feet, and then we will slope up from that 12 feet. So right now you have a 10-foot sidewall and then flat across and then just step up. So we will be, short answer, I don't have the exact height in the middle. Quick answer, will be a foot taller on the sides and then slope up from there. It is 10:15 and I have 2 more hands up. So let's do 2 more questions on this topic and then we'll jump into the hybrids. Oh, sorry. There was one there and then one in the far back. Yeah. Okay. Let's do 3 questions.
Realistically, I hope we all understand there will be disruption, but do you, as part of your planning, incorporate a transition sort of so that people will still be fed? Obviously, maybe we will have to not gather for a while or whatever, but is that part of your planning?
It is part of what the team is putting together as far as the sequencing goes, but what we will have will be the opportunity to have the multi-purpose room constructed, have this room fully occupied as a multi-purpose room while that is under construction, and then move that activity and then have this renovated into kitchen dining opportunity. So it will be sequenced all the way in the back.
Thank you. Back to the entrance and exit from the multi-purpose room. It appears to me there's actually 3 doors. Can we not use the door into the outside dining area and also the door into the courtyard for entrance and exits?
You could, but those are primarily going to be exits, and you would have to walk outside to come in that way. So it really wouldn't be as feasible as just coming in through this main door.
But to Susan's point, for people who do feel the need to exit early, they could use those other 2 doors. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, you could.
Thank you.
All right, the last one was up here then. And we'll have time to circle back to these at the end of the presentation. I just want to make sure we don't forget about phase 2.
Going back to the new location of the fitness center, and you pointed out would be on a slab, which is good, except when you need a sprung floor to some degree. Yoga, dance, a variety of other things. If you're right on, great. And then to add to that, if there's humidity in the type of flooring that you currently have, you stick.
The interiors team is working very closely with Riverwoods to identify the right floor for those spaces. There will be insulation and padding underneath whatever floor is. The upside from a medicine ball standpoint will go directly into ground, but the yoga and the movement that will occur will be soft on your foot. There's definitely more flooring options than I ever knew about when we look at fitness areas. Jumping into the expansion, and this is what was approved last night. As we look at the overall plan, just because I want to keep rearranging us to this building, right now we are here. And if you were to look out those windows, we'd be looking out towards the expansion and the 2 residential buildings and the central commons building. That's the community center in the middle. As we zoom in to those, Stone Quarry Drive is coming across, and that's going to get reconfigured a little bit. I will never do a civil engineer justice in describing all of the site work and everything he's put into this, but one of the key components is the curve of Stone Quarry Drive will allow for less braking, so you won't hear any truck braking noises, and a little bit smoother flow to DPW. It'll also open up a little bit more site for these 2 buildings, or three buildings back here, because instead of coming to a 90-degree corner, we now have this soft curve, which will allow for this building to be located, the east building, outside of the setback off of the wetlands. So as I think a lot of you have understood, there's a significant amount of wetlands out there. And there needs to be a significant setback off of those wetlands that we stay out of as often as we can. About half of the community building is impacting that setback, and about a third of the west building is impacting that setback. But by having this curve, we're able to keep the east building and the garage completely outside of any setback area. One of the things that was questioned last time was the paths that work around within the wooded area. And I wanted to highlight that those paths will connect to sidewalks, which will connect right back to the main building. We'll have the paths on the south side of Stone Quarry still intact, and then the east side of Stone Quarry still intact. There's a little bridge right here that goes over a wetland. And then in these dark brown areas, you're seeing two locations where the trails will be modified. So the trails will still exist, but they're going to be modified to work around some relocation. And as the civil engineer was working through there, they did identify a couple of spots that needed to be adjusted. With the community center, we have an entry sequence that brings you from the porch through the vestibule. As Natalie mentioned, we're not going to talk about what is served in the dining area, only that there will be a dining area and food service component. We have the lounge, table tennis, and then a club room and amenity space that are configured to be usable for the entire campus. Those spaces, if you look at the community center, which I've learned has the name Hatchwood now, so that has been named. That's exciting. We're looking at 6,200 square feet with a 1,300 square foot patio. We've got 1,174 square foot of club space, 370 square foot around the table tennis, and then the bistro dining and food service coming in at about 1,200 square feet there. Comparable, Ray's Place is 630 square feet. The Hearth Room downstairs is about 820 square feet. The C111 dining is 985, and this room is 2,500 square feet. So comparable spaces, we've got a little bit more dining as far as the bistro and dining area that is about the size of what C111 is now. Ray's Place is 630 square feet versus the lounge over here being 972, and the club room being 1174 compared to Traymount being 2510. So the space of the club room itself is about half of the size of this room today, and that's just an additional gathering spot for individuals to use. Not intended for everybody to be gathering there at one time, but just wanted to give you kind of a sense of that scale and square footage. Architecturally, we're looking at something a little bit different for the clubhouse, a little bit more contemporary. As we went through the community approval process, the town planner was actually asking for us to make the expansion blue and red. Red siding, something blue on the building. He definitely wanted us to get creative with colors. We expressed to him that we wanted the expansion to look and feel like it was part of this community from day one. We wanted the colors to be the same. On the clubhouse, what we have is the opportunity to tie into the marketing barn that is down on 108, where it's a little bit of a darker blue, a little bit unique in its architectural character as a renovated barn. And then we can bring in that color and those roof lines within the clubhouse. So that's how we worked with the community to identify that it's not all going to be more of the gray and beige, but in fact we will bring in some blue, no red, not bringing in any red. Maybe on some beautiful plants, but not on the building. Architecturally, those renderings have been updated since the last time you all saw them to reflect that updated color. So this is heading down Stone Quarry, coming along the side of the clubhouse. Okay. This would be the front door for the clubhouse. So you can see with the kind of the blue tone here, and then using our existing stone, this is the entryway into that lounge space, and then this is the dining area. One of the things that the community approval process really identified is the beautiful natural wooded area that'll be remaining around all these buildings. But they also identified the need for landscaping to be added. So we do have a nice amount of landscape being added to these building footprints, not just relying on the wooded area wrapping around, but also bringing in some foundation planting and some trees to work with the existing parking configurations and the new expanded parking that wraps around not only the community center, but also the expanded parking that wraps around the proposed garage. Last time I was here was almost a year ago. Was there a maintenance garage on the plan a year ago when we were here? Good. You're right, it was all the way in the back. Perfect. So this is not a new component, but it is a much more accessible component for the Riverwood staff and can also alleviate some parking challenges by having the staff and their vehicles parked directly adjacent to that proposed garage. So not only are we going to have these hybrids that have underground parking, and is there going to be a plethora of visitor parking and resident parking outside of it, but also the maintenance and staff parking will be increased inside. Speaking of parking, because it's a hot topic, we have 27 parking stalls within a 26-unit building. So all parking stalls will be 1-to-1 and we'll still have a handicap stall available. There will be bike parking on the first floor and then a small lobby and vestibule for entry. So the first floor is really doing a lot of work to take care of the cars. When you get to the second floor of the typical building, you'll have a social space. The residents here will have a space to gather, potluck, cards, different dining opportunities right here in the middle social space, coming directly adjacent to the elevator, and then their residents will wrap around that. On the upper floors, that social space is replaced with another Bellamy or one-bedroom unit opportunity. So you can see that there's a nice mixture of 1- and 2-bedroom units, but it's really a very short walk from the elevator to the furthest unit, as you're really only going past 4 doors in either direction. Architecturally, no red. Where'd it go? Diggle it. Oh, look at that. Architecturally, as I mentioned, no red, but a consistent architectural palette to what we have on the existing building, and just bringing it down into a smaller footprint. The other building, so the west building, we have 29 parking stalls for 28 units. But again, very similar configuration with the vestibule, a lobby, bike storage, directly adjacent to the elevator and with easy access from the parking. This floor plan looks like I already showed it to you, but in fact it is slightly different. This building has some additional Bellamy's mixed into the plan to bring in a little bit more of that right-sized 1-bedroom, offering more economically accessible units. And as we go to the upper level, you can see that social space drops away for an additional Bellamy. The units themselves should all look fairly familiar to you all, because for the most part, we are using existing unit plans. So if there's a unit available in this building, it will also be available in the expansion. With that being said, there are a couple of things where we're making modifications based on lessons learned. We're bringing in a few more side-by-side washer and dryers, but the most significant change is actually to the Ellis, or the 1+ den, where we are taking a floor plan and reconfiguring the kitchen and the den space to offer some more storage into the public living space, a little bit larger living area, and then a den where the door rotates so that instead of a door on the side, we're able to get some shared light between the den and the kitchen, and that unit will eventually look something like this, where you can see that full light window door would be directly across from a 6-foot window on the other side. So it's a little bit smaller kitchen actually, but it'll function a little bit better. You'll be able to circulate around the island, and then we'll get more natural daylight into the den, as this window currently is single and it only goes down to the countertop because there's a sink there. So some of those types of modifications we're making to the plans are really all based on lessons learned and feedback that we got from marketing on, boy, it'd be nice if. This building, again, similar architectural character. The only difference between this one and what I showed you before is there is an extra window in each of those bays as we brought in the Bellamy. And then visually, as you come down Stone Creek Drive, this is the corner that you would see reaching to the DPW, and then kind of the experience of the front entry, and then the built-in balconies of the individual unit. For that is the extent of the architectural presentation. And before we move on to major players, are there questions on those topics? I anticipated there would be. As a side note, it is 10:30, so we have about a half hour left. Wherever we go.
I'm back on the multi-purpose room. It looked like, my husband pointed out to me, it looked like you wouldn't be able to see the stage from this side of the room because the wall came out.
Break a rule, I'm going to go back to that, just so we can take a peek at it. Wouldn't be able to see the stage because the wall came out.
So you've got
Right
a
here?
wall that comes
Yeah.
part
So
way.
those are steps. So that view that you're seeing right there,
Yeah.
these are steps, not a wall.
But there's a wall
There is a wall coming
right beside
out
the stage.
right beside the stage, like here, and then the entry sequence would be there. So that's primarily circulation. It will really not be any worse. If not, it would be better than where Karen is sitting now as far as coming across that angle. So
Yeah, you
Where-
can't see through a wall.
the corner is there. So what you would be losing
Is
to
right
your
there.
extent is this triangular portion at the back corner of the
see.
stage. But I do want to answer questions on phase 2 first, and then if we need to go back to any of the expansion stuff, we can.
Okay, I'm seeing all these new people, and they're going to come over here. I'm worried about wintertime and coat rooms. Are coat rooms provided in both campuses, both sides of the campus?
Yes, and in fact, we just had a conversation last week about ensuring that we expand the coat rooms both over here on the dining area and in the community center. So all of the destinations where you are traveling to will have coat rooms, and they're all being expanded. Yes, that feedback has gotten to the architectural team loud and clear. I'll repeat her question if.
Oh, yes. You mentioned that the new buildings will have all the same type apartments. I live in an oyster. The world is my oyster, and I love it. I didn't see any oysters.
Fair point. We do not have all the same units.
Oh, okay.
But all of the units that we have in there, we've got 4 of them that are the same from this main campus.
Oh,
So the oyster is not one of them.
Too bad.
You can pass it on to.
Eric, going back to the Hatchwood patio size,
Mm-hmm.
how does that compare with what will be left in our courtyard over here? Because it looks like we're taking up a lot of the courtyard over here for what I think is a great multi-purpose room.
Is it zooming in? Oh, it is zooming in. I don't have the exact numbers, and I can follow up with the numbers. But right now, this is how far the existing porch sticks out. We're going about twice as far into there. But if you can put in perspective, this is showing the existing walkways. We're going about a third of the way into that curve.
So that's a little bit bigger than the patio, or are we able to have outdoor activities on both sides of the road? I would assume.
You will absolutely have outdoor activities on both sides. I will get that as a comparison to follow up with.
Building a double elevator in the new, whatever we're calling those, living or quarters or whatever, rather than, it looks like just one elevator, and if it could be two, it's a lot easier, two in the, side by side, because if it's only a single and it's out of commission or broken or somebody's moving in, it can be difficult for the upper floors especially.
We have 4 magnificent oak trees, very old, beautiful trees. And are you paying any attention to the continuation of the life of those trees in that plan? If some of us chained ourselves to those trees, would it make any difference?
It absolutely would make a difference. We'd have to wait until we found a key to that chain. But I joke to that. But what we've worked with the civil is to ensure that these buildings are placed in the least affected areas of the plan. And we were definitely more focused on working around the wetlands and the vernal ponds than any one particular tree. So while I don't know where the 4 that you're referring to are, we can have civil map them out to see where they are and then identify if they live within a building footprint or not. But the wetlands were more of an impact than the trees. To be 100% truthful, that is how we.
I think it's me. I don't know if you're going to talk about this later, but what about timelines for either the one you just talked about or this one?
I think that's going to be later, and we're going to kick that can to another individual.
Okay.
It's hard to get a real sense of scale from your drawings, but it looks like it's a fair distance from that proposed east building to this building. We've talked before about the difficulty of people navigating that in wintertime and stuff. Also, you talked about more staff parking around the proposed maintenance building. That, again, is quite a job for the staff to get back and forth in bad weather. I'm curious about how that's proposed.
I unfortunately don't have an answer for you on the specifics of what would alleviate the circulation. But I think the Riverwoods shuttle would have an opportunity to support those needs. Individuals with cars would support that need. However, we aren't proposing any parking close to the Commons entry, so I wouldn't recommend that individuals drive from those buildings over. We are adding sidewalk. I think that's probably one of the biggest components, is that the north side of Stone Quarry Drive will have a continuous sidewalk that links the DPW side past the maintenance garage, past each building, and then we'll have a crosswalk that occurs not only here, that can bring you past the woodworking and into the back of house area, but also here that can bring you around the front door. So we are accommodating pedestrians more successfully than you currently are. But yes, during heavy snows, that will have to be cleared to provide that. I love seeing the hands without having a microphone to hand.
On the clubhouse, you show a lounge and a club room, which take up a lot of space in that clubhouse. Could you just talk about what you envision as the purpose for those spaces? And I wondered particularly if the club room is something that will be able to show movies or some other activity like that.
Yes, very much so. The lounge is intended to be another social space where people can see activity of people coming and going. One of the most successful pieces of the hearth room downstairs is its proximity to front door, waiting for friends, making those connections, seeing people on a daily basis. We would anticipate that lounge receiving that type of same experience with television and coffee opportunity here. So that function, we believe strongly, should be incorporated in every building. The club room itself at 1,100 square feet is that opportunity for a enclosable social space where if you were to say, I'm looking for a room on campus where I can host 30 of my closest friends, what rooms do you have available for me? Club room becomes one of those spaces. So whether it's the bridge club or a committee meeting room, we see a lot of that opportunity happening in the club space beyond just a birthday party or wedding anniversary.
Video capable?
Yes. The other wall here, we anticipate there being a drop-down screen opportunity in addition to TVs that would be within that space.
Hello, I'm gonna leave very quickly after I ask this question because I'll be stoned. What about Aquafit? It got dumped?
I'm glad you clarified how you would be stoned. People throwing stones at you. Got it. We did remove the aqua therapy from the plan. Without it being a true pool, we did not receive much positive feedback last time. And without room for a true pool, the aqua therapy did not make the cut. We also do not have a hot tub in the plan.
Move on. Let's move on.
If you go back to the flow diagram where people will be coming from the east, the new, whatever we call it, my concern with looking at the sidewalk is why would people take the sidewalk all the way down past the carports when they can just go in and walk through all the delightful cars in a parking lot with all of the challenges that causes? There is a door there, and people, when they're coming from there, at the end, they go through there.
Right here. Yes. I think I love giving choices and options. So if that's your preferred door, please continue to access that one versus down here. Is this the question? Why walk to here versus walking to here?
I'm concerned more about people who are going in and out of parking, people walking down there, the safety issues, and because it's a lot shorter, and even though the garage is not super warm, it's a lot warmer than on a cold day walking the whole length outdoors.
I would encourage people to use that sidewalk, but from a safety standpoint, I don't see more people interrupting the drive path as continuing down the sidewalk. I would always recommend that people use the sidewalk from a safety standpoint. And as long as it's cleared and maintained, it should be just as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, to take the sidewalk than the... I got faith. I live in an optimistic world. I do. I've heard that feedback.
I have a question about the outside activity area of the clubhouse. Many of us want more activities and spaces for them, particularly bocce. And I noticed that a bocce court was on the original drawings, and we're hoping that one will be provided.
Bocce continues to make the cut and is shown right here off of the patio behind the community center. Yes. Yes, sir.
So, when I look at the vestibule of the clubhouse, it seems like there's no security, there's no front desk, there's no reception. How will that be done operationally? I know that's maybe not in your area, but it seems to me that there's got to be, like we have the front desk coming in here that can control entry.
Yeah, from an entry and control point, a lot of that will be electronic. Similar to the overall buildings here, each of these buildings does not have a reception area. It is much more along the lines of you come in, you use your key card to access the elevator and your residence. That would be consistent with the front of the community center. And then there is an office directly next to that vestibule, however, with a glass door that they would be able to maintain a sense of presence. So that is here, where we have a coat closet and then an office staff, and then that is a glass door there. So there is a visible component as to when somebody is here outside of the weather, maybe using a key card access.
Okay.
On the clubhouse, in the dining area, what is the seating capacity of that? First question. And second question is whether or not there will be sufficient functional capability in the kitchen area in the clubhouse to serve meals at all comparable to what exists today in this facility.
The food that'll be served in the kitchen is to be determined. We are providing a location for a cook line and a hood within that area so that we can truly cook food. And some of the best restaurants do wonders with small kitchens. So if it's a limited enough menu, they could create some fantastic food options. From a seating capacity, we have 32 seats available within this configuration here, plus some expansion onto this area where we have 20 additional seats available in a slightly more casual seating configuration. So you're looking at an opportunity where 50 people could comfortably dine in that space at once. Not that we ever anticipate that truly happening, as it would be much more of a casual opportunity.
I believe that mail service for phase 2 will be concentrated at the community center in the mail room there, so people will come there every day for their mail.
That is correct.
Okay. Would it make sense to consider having the vestibule next to the mail room and to move the office space over to the right to allow people to come into the vestibule and go directly into the mail room, rather than to circle around, by the offices and get to the mail? Or do you intend to have them interacting with people in the dining area and the lounge before they get their mail?
So we actually had a direct door into that mailroom, and we removed it. Right here, off of this porch, used to be a door that went directly into the mailroom and didn't require you to come into the lounge or the social space. At this point, we would like to see people come in and have the opportunity to cross a friend at the lounge, sit down and have a conversation when they come and get their mail. So we've got the internal access only. Let's call it a social experiment.
In this presentation, you show the patio where it is facing the parking lot. On the prior presentation, when you were talking about the bocce court, it looked like the patio was on the left and not facing the parking lot.
So this building, and I'm going to keep doing this type of madness, is rotated from what you see on the site plan. So on the site plan, this is Stone Quarry Drive, and then this is the parking lot that comes down. So that's where that rotation happens. So I apologize for that. This patio is enclosed facing the wetland and wooded area, and then the bocce ball continues on to the wooded area, and then that is the visibility to Stone Quarry Drive.
Thank you.
Right here.
Right here? Hello.
Sorry, I've got a follow-up question over here, so I'm going to take a step back to the site plan. I'm just trying to make everybody dizzy by doing this over and over again. So this is the community center. On this plan, Stone Quarry Drive here, all of the parking is on the right side of the building on this plan. That next page takes this whole thing and rotates it. So now, this is the entry. This is the patio, and this is the bocce. See how it moves right to left? When I rotate the building, just for confusion, it now goes top to bottom. Great question, and we can blame it on the relationship between architects and civil engineers.
The parking spaces underneath the building are regular spaces, as are the present ones here. Is there any contingent preparation for someone who might want to put in charging for electrical vehicles?
I'll repeat it. So the question was, are the parking stalls underneath these new buildings standard parking stalls, or will they be able to accommodate electric vehicles charging? Right now, we are not proposing any electric charging stations within the building.
I understand. My question is, will there be adequate installation of that electrical potential so that if someone wanted to do it, they could?
Yes. However, right now, we are putting them outside the building and creating it where it's easier to expand and add more outside. As we look at this as an expansion, one of the key components is we fully anticipate residents from this side of the campus potentially parking electric vehicles over there as well as they become more and more popular. So we're placing them outside of all the buildings, easily accessed for everybody.
Okay.
So that's where we're starting. We're starting with 4 and then expanding from there.
Okay. My second question has to do with the heating, cooling systems within the buildings. Right now, we are using gas and electric. Going forward, are we going to be doing all electric?
So right now, we still have gas furnaces as one of the base options for the plan, but we are evaluating electric systems.
Okay, thank you.
We do not have any solar system built into the plan. However, we do have roof set up to accommodate it. The question before there's a microphone delivered is that, will there be a generator for this complex? The answer is there will be 2 generators, one for each of the main residential buildings, and then the community building will be able to tie off of it. And that is primarily there because we will be adding the potential for fire pumps to increase the water pressure within buildings, and those require a generator. We get some added benefit of having them. We do. Thank goodness for a civil engineer after I gave him a hard time about rotating the building plan. Generator right there and generator right there are the 2 locations.
My interest is at Stunnkvar Drive. When you drive in on the side, it's not very beautiful because you look at the road and people who will live there. Will you give us a wall of big trees that from the highway you can protect us a little bit? And at the same time, we didn't talk about the dog park. The dog park is there too. Can't we have some benches there where people find and can sit down?
First question about the dog park. I would love to provide some benches at the dog park, and we will add that to our list. We are not removing the dog park. It is right over here, just off screen, right where you wouldn't be able to see the new stage, because that's on the triangle. Kidding, sorry. So that dog park there will remain. Perhaps we should be showing the trail and the path that connects it, because I know you can get there right now, and that would be an extension of this sidewalk. Sure, we'll work with the landscape and designer to see what would happen out there. I know that there's some adjustment happening to the property line, so there might be more flexibility out there moving forward. 5 minutes of your time, and I know we do have a few more slides to get to. So maybe this is the last question. Maybe you're the last.
You have provided more bathroom facilities in the community center than you have for the first floor that contains both the auditorium and the dining area.
We have added bathrooms. We've added the two bathrooms over there.
Back there and use those.
Well, everybody is using the multi-purpose room because it's directly across the hall now.
Yeah, well, they're way out of the way.
Which I would say that they are close enough to be convenient, but without being directly front and center when you come out of the multi-purpose room. So that they'll be there and visible. And then one of the biggest challenges with this one originally going to be expanded to be more dining, that we were actually going to be reducing the total toilets adjacent because this bathroom was going to go away. So we feel strongly that we're adding those back into the plan, and then we're adding bathrooms there. So both the dining and the multi-purpose room will have bathroom opportunities. And then yes, we are adding some more in the community. And then we added bathrooms with showers down into the fitness area as well, because that was one of the key components to some of the previous designs, was that we were removing the shower configuration, and then lessons learned, staff, and their use of it to bring that back so they smell during their work shift. I think we've got one last question, and then we will move on to bigger and better things like timelines.
All right, Dwight, you're it.
I've heard no mention about energy efficiency in your construction. Are you going to employ more insulation into your buildings? And the last question would be trails. You mentioned trails right at the beginning, but there have been plans that have been put forth that would allow trails after the buildings are completed, not to have to use the parking lot sidewalks.
Yes.
Thank you.
So there's two connections that are being adjusted to the paths. You will not have to use the parking lots to access them. Everything behind the building and then around DPW is remaining untouched, and then we're just modifying and creating a couple of connection points that can get you back to the cemetery and then around to the dog park without the need to use those parking lots. So that is one of the things that we're sticking with. Then the other thing was the efficiency. From a building design standpoint, we are looking at continuous exterior insulation. We are looking at high efficiency equipment within the building. So we will also have higher U-value windows as we look at some of the high level components. So we are looking at efficiency part of the overall design. All right, that's it for me architecturally. I'm here and available for a while, but I think we had one more component of this presentation. Would you like this?
Thank you so much, Eric. Just a couple slides from me. I'm glad to see so many of you are awake because my son is snoring in the back. With all of this today, there's not a single person who could make this happen, but it does take a village. And so I want to remind you of our partners in this project, some of whom are here today. CE Floyd team, could you raise your hands for folks to see who you are? CE Floyd is our construction partner in this project. So a lot of you are wondering about the project timeline. I have a high-level overview for you today. What you're most interested in, I'm sure, is when is this going to get started? And that answer is summer of 2026. So we'll be moving into permanent financing and the start of construction next August. In the timeline itself, we're assuming 16 to 18 months for total construction. The actual phasing, which is very important to folks as well. When will the new dining space be available? When will the new Tremont Place be available? We don't have that quite yet, but we're meeting with CE Floyd after this meeting today to get started on those conversations. Once we have more details on that, I will be sure to share with you, but there are quite a few logistics to get through, as you can imagine. Most recently, we met with the Resident Finance Committee in the Phase 2 Advisory Group with Greystone, our development partner, and our CFO, Kevin Goyette, and talked through high-level financial details of what's being proposed for the project. We are going to host that for all of you after recommendation from the Finance Committee this upcoming spring. So be sure to be looking for a date regarding that. And in September, just wanted to remind you again, we are going to be looking to name our current building, as the two hybrid homes have names, Osprey and Heron. So more to come there. We're working with our marketing team and our Phase 2 advisory group to get that information along to you. So be thinking of your bird names. I've already heard a few opportunities there. So not a dodo, maybe. Why are we naming our current building is always a question as well. I just want to remind you, we are one community. Similar to Riverwoods Exeter's 3 campuses, they each have a name, Woods, Ridge, and Boulders. We are one community, but we'll have 3 different buildings. And so we'll think about it in that way. We can't wait to welcome our new neighbors, and we'll be talking about ways that we're going to welcome them in the upcoming months as well. You may be wondering, how can I get a closer look at all the information that I learned today, and specifically those site plans? I'm going to host intimate recap sessions just as I did last time. I'll host 2 of them on November 25th, one at 11, one at 3:30, both in the classroom. And I'll have enlarged site plans for folks to view. So please come and join me. And also submit your questions, again, to the phase2@riverwoodsdurham.org, rwdurham.org email. I thank you for your time, and we have to move quickly because the big employee appreciation auction is today, immediately following. So bring your checkbooks this afternoon.